Hey folks, it's Yannick Gwizdala. It's the Yannick Gwizdala podcast. Let's get right to it. Today, I have one gadget purchased from Amazon, one musical accessory I'm going to share with you. Very interesting. I've got a new bass. Is that even possible? It's like the year of new basses. Full disclosure, it's not actually my bass. It's new to me, hanging on to it for a friend. But byproduct of that is that I get to share it with you and play it a little bit in today's episode. More on that later. And I have sort of a new exercise, something I've been doing to stay in shape musically, bass related, technique related this week, actually for a few weeks now. I'm going to share that with you later on in the podcast. It is related to my latest book, The Bassist Book of Scales and Arpeggios. Just got a motherload, massive delivery of physical copies here. They're signed, as you can see. Those are available on the website. It's all linked below. We also just got a ton of chordal harmony in, and my jazz book, Iconic Lines. If you want to open up your jazz vocabulary a little bit, Iconic Lines are basically an entire history of what jazz lines, what linear ideas sound like from the greatest players, greatest improvisers of the last 100 years. It's all in there, and they're all linked below. You can also get them at Amazon. You can get digital copies, physical copies, however you want to do it. Also, before we get into the new gadget, I rarely do this, but because we're getting so close to the start of touring season, let's officially announce, let's throw some of these dates out there, starting with actually tomorrow. If you're around tomorrow in Los Angeles, it's going to be March 20th. I'll be at the Baked Potato with Bob Reynolds. No Ruslan Sirota tomorrow night. It's going to be Julian Pollock. You might know him as J3PO. Me, Gene, Bob, and Julian. Then we really start touring with Steve Smith with Vital Information. 3 nights at the Baked Potato in LA to kick off the tour, April 3, 4, 5. We go to Phoenix, Arizona, Musical Instrument Museum, April 7th. We'll be in Pleasant Grove, Utah, April 9th. Albuquerque, New Mexico, April 10. We'll be at Yoshi's in Oakland, California, April 11th. Las Vegas, Nevada, the Smith Center, April 12th. Portland, Oregon for PDX Jazz, April 13th. Then jumping ahead, we're going to be at Ronnie Scott's in London, May 10th. Jumping towards the end of that month for me, I'm giving a clinic with Ian Martin Allison at Thomann Music in Bergerbrach. Is that how you pronounce that? It's out there not far from Würzburg and Nuremberg, out there in Germany. And is that Bavaria? No. Shit, I get my German provinces mixed up. But if you're around there, you know where it is. It's May 31st, Thomann Music, 12 noon. I'll be there with Ian Martin Allison doing a clinic, kind of, for Line 6 and a lot about the HX Stomp. And I'm sure we're going to play together again, finally, and talk a lot about music for a couple of hours. So come out and join us. The very next day, Ian and I are both going to London to do Bass Day Europe. That's at the City of London School, June 1st. And then we're jumping ahead later in June. I'll be back on the road with Steve Smith, Vital Information. We'll be in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, June 19th. We have a 3-night run at Birdland in New York City, June 20, 21, 22. We'll be in Hicksville, New York, 23, June 23. Syracuse Jazz Festival, June 26. Scranton, Pennsylvania, June 27th. And Marlborough, New York, June 29th. There will be other dates filling in around that tour. Plus, I believe a couple of days to do a record date for a new Vital Information album. The last I heard, that was actually going to be potentially something extra exciting. So I'll give you more news on that as and when I have it. That's it. That's tour dates out of the way. If you're in any of those places, do please come out and say hello. If you have a physical book already, for instance, and you didn't get a signed copy, bring it out. Get it signed. I'll be around. And one last thing before we get to the gadget, I got to tell you a little story. I'm in Target. For those of you who don't live in America, that's a big store of clothes, TVs, cat litter, watermelon. I mean, it's basically a store that sells everything. In there with my daughter a few days ago, and we were looking for cat litter for our cat. We go down the cat litter aisle, we grab the cat litter, we turn around 180 degrees and come up the next aisle. It's the sort of books and vinyl aisle. I'm like, oh, wow, books. And we're looking at books, and is that a pink cover and green cover? Yeah. And I look over, and my daughter says, hey, who's that woman on the horse? And she's looking at this, right? Let's hold this up to the camera. If you're not watching on YouTube, go check this out. So she looks over, she said, who's the pretty lady on the horse? And for those of you who don't know what album this is Cowboy Carter. This is Beyonce's last record that won all the Grammys. And as I look at it, I'm like, oh, it's a very humbling moment when you realize who the real rock star of the household is, because my wife is on this record. And I bought it for her as a gift. She hasn't even opened it yet, as you can see. Maybe we'll actually keep it here and just use it for display purposes. But it's a beautiful package, double album, booklet, all kinds of stuff. And it was really a nice moment to be able to, my daughter's aware that we're both musicians, and she knows we both play bass, and she knows Dada plays a little bit of piano and guitar and stuff, and Mama sings really well, and Mama's also a music producer for Disney, and she's kind of aware of all of those things. But it's a really sweet moment, and like really the first time for me this week where she's old enough to understand when I say something like, hey, Mama is on that record. Like Mama was a big part of that record. She won the Grammy, that album won album of the year. So my wife was a part of the Grammys and winning a Grammy for that. I mean, it's just huge for my wife, but really a great parent moment that I'm happy to be able to share with all of you. And we definitely, if you walk into Target and somebody's on it, they're on a lot of stuff. It's one of those things, like it has reached this far. What we're not going to see is my vinyl in Target anytime soon. But segueing beautifully into that for a shameless plug, the vinyl it's at the pressing plant right now. We're just waiting on the units to be finalized, pressed, and shipped to me before I sign them and send them out to all of you that have pre-ordered it. It's still available for pre-order below. It's linked in the description. There are only 100 of them. I only pressed 100. Beyonce probably pressed 1 million, I don't know, 500,000, a lot. I was wondering how on earth she could do this whole package. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't cheap. I think it ended up being like $60 or something. It's not a cheap purchase. But I was like, hang on, man. I looked at all the numbers of my own vinyl pressing. I'm like, Jesus, I did it as economically as possible while still making the vinyl 180 grams, while still not doing the cheapest jacket. I wanted a spine on the jacket, but I didn't go like double vinyl. I had to take a couple of tracks off the record in order to make it fit on one disc. So I did all this stuff to make it as affordable to the customer as possible. I still think it's like $38 or whatever it is on my website for sale. I'm like, how the hell is Beyonce's only like, $20 more, but she's got the double album? And I say, oh yeah, she does them 500,000 at a time. I do them 100 at a time. And I totally forget that you get an enormous price break at those kind of volumes. So yeah, they can afford to do it. So anyway, yeah, that's available for below. Let's get into available for below. That is available for pre-sale, for purchase right now. It ships in about, I want to say 4 or 5 weeks from now. That's probably the lead time. As I say, it's at the pressing plant, it's at disc makers, just waiting on notification of it being shipped. It'll probably be after this first Vital Information tour. Now, I'm finally going to show you guys and girls what I've been using as a footstool to practice here in the studio. As you have probably seen before, I basically never stand anymore when I play. And as I sit to play, I have the instrument I'm right-handed, I have the instrument on my left thigh in a kind of classical guitar style. Okay, how are we doing on levels here? Does that look pitifully low? It sounds pretty low, but let's see. It's not great. Let's give ourselves a little bit more action in the juice department. It's got a little bit more kick to it. Anyway, we're talking about playing position, not recording techniques here. And my playing position is such. If you're watching online, you'll see it right now. Bass on YouTube, rather. The bass on the left thigh. Now, all of that to say, and to expose what I've been using as a footstool, I've been using this Relic relic of technology. Look at this thing. This is an old, what do they, ASATA or something, right? It's an old Lacey or Lacey, however you pronounce that. It's an old, just an old hard drive tower, like you could, with like swappable, you can pull these bad boys out. And it's so awful as a piece of technology. It's so out of date. Like this entire thing, which is huge, and it's really heavy as well. You can now fit on a hard drive this size. I don't think this is anywhere near 5 terabytes. Might not even be 500 megabytes. Anyway, long story long, I've been putting this on the floor because obviously I don't use it anymore, and that has been my footstool. That is just at the base of my desk every day, and I shuffle it around. It's really heavy. I stub my toe on it more than you can imagine. In fact, I don't know why I'm putting it back down there. I should just get rid of it now because... Now, not like this is the first time I'm buying one of these. I have had footstools before, but finally I'm going on the road. I want something consistent every night. It's time to really, get my shit together in terms of my playing position and my posture. It's a footstool. It's an old classical guitar style wooden footstool. Pretty simple design, as you might imagine. Different heights are possible depending on your seating, your seat height. One little feature I like about this, especially as I'm playing a headless bass now, and quite often when venues provide a bass stand or a guitar stand, it's one of the ones that involves a clip that you hang the bass in from the headstock. At home, I've been using this. This stand, the bass sits on it really well. See if I can put the bass up on the desk to show you what's going on here. Maybe, yes, no, I don't know. Camera's not really in the right place, but essentially the bass sits up there like that. I think this one's big enough. You can use use it for a classical guitar, for an acoustic, anything basically. So that's my stand. That's how the bass stands upright in the studio here. Now, a feature of this footstool. And I purchased this, by the way. This is not a sponsored video of any kind. I just went on Amazon, looked for something that was highly rated, that wasn't $1 million, and, as I'm about to show you, had this kind of cool feature. When you unclasp it from its footstool functionality, put the foot plate upright, it slots into this crossbar here and basically turns into exactly the same thing I just showed you, but because there's a cork kind of insert here, and this is all cork on the bottom, it's all padded, it's not just straight wood. The instrument fits on there, not like, as a guitar stand. I was going to say like a guitar stand. And I'm quite looking forward to having that as my little touring thingamajig that serves as both bass stand and footstool. So that's my gadget of the day. I don't even know the name of the company to give them a plug. Here we go. They are called, wow, what is that letter? SPI something E. It's not this wrong shape for an N. Spike. That's a K. Wow. Okay. Spike multifunctional guitar stand. They probably need to work on their font, but hopefully the product is a little more successful than the font, shall we say? We'll see. I've had a ton of these before. I honestly don't have too much hope for it in terms of touring. I think if I were to just keep this here in the studio, it'd be fine. Unfortunately, I still haven't found a solution where these don't get totally wrecked on the road. They just get beaten around, and inevitably they're going to be put in some checked luggage at some point. They're going to shake and vibrate on a plane. It came with an Allen wrench and some tools, just because these are inevitably going to come unscrewed and loosened. So I'm guessing as long as I don't lose the parts, I'll be able to keep tightening it up every day. But let's see what the durability is like. I'll check in a few weeks. I'll let you know if you're in the market for that. I've also been thinking about having one of those guitar rests, like leg rests. So instead of having the foot elevated, you just have the instrument elevated on your thigh. There could be some use for that in terms of the ergonomics of it and having a little bit better posture and evenness between the 2 feet, being able to be planted flat on the floor at all times. I think I would quite like that. It has come up as a question recently on the channel, on the YouTube channel. Someone was asking about that. Do I have any issues with one foot being raised higher than the other? I can foresee that there could be some. The answer I gave in the YouTube comments was that I tend to take pretty good care of my body. So I have strength and flexibility in all these places. So it doesn't affect me as much as someone who's maybe leading a bit more of a sedentary lifestyle and is not exercising, not stretching, and isn't as limber. I can definitely see there would be issues with that. If you're just cranking your knee up the whole time and you don't go stretch afterwards or work out or run or walk or bike or whatever it is. So far, so good. I was going to say I'm lucky, but I think it's just I do the work and I take care of my body. That a byproduct of that just happens to be that I'm not affected by the seated position, maybe as much as the next person. Now, shall we check out a new instrument? Again, this is not mine, and I have no clue about it. I plugged it in for about 8 seconds earlier on and played a few notes. It's set up super low action. It is a Seric. Is it the Lincoln? Is that what it's called? I saw a name on the order tag. There it is. It's black. It's got 2 pickups. It's got, I guess, my friend who owns it was just explaining what the pickup selector does here. The little chicken claw, chicken foot thing. It's like rear pickup, front pickup, both in series, both in parallel, or the other way around, both in parallel, both in series. Kind of getting thinner to thicker in terms of the sound, and then volume and tone. Quite a simple layout. Punchy pickups. I did turn the amp up just now and crank it before I hit record. So let's give it a whirl and see what it's all about. I have no dog in this fight. This bass has nothing to do with me. I didn't purchase it. I'm not the owner. I'm not going to keep it more than a few days here. So. Woo. I'm probably going to have to take the juice levels down a little bit in the pedal board because it's a lot hotter output than my completely passive Matheson there. In fact, let's we turn that off, the preamp, shall we? And see how we do. And maybe we'll lose the reverb. And just see how this bass is. Okay, action way too low for me. Much. Scale length 34 inch, I think. That is what I've been told, and it feels way bigger than anything I'm used to in terms of like the stretch and the reach. So let's see what we got going on here. That's whoa. There's definitely tone control. Okay. Okay. I will say it's definitely not my style. I don't think it plays a little differently from most basses I'm used to. That's my initial reaction. Again, I'm not reviewing this. I'm just playing it a little bit and checking it out. It's not my instrument, nor does Seric have any idea that this is happening. And maybe these are nickel strings. They don't feel as gritty as I'm used to, but who knows? I actually said to my friend, I was like, oh, is this a short scale? He's like, no, 34. And I think it was just the way, maybe the neck placement, I'm not sure. The body and the neck, it plays a little bit different from a normal sort of standard 34-inch scale bass, I think. Not crazy in tune either. I can do a better job of that. The temperature has been up and down like crazy here in California. It's like one day it's 49, the next day it's 82. It's like, what's going on, people? Maybe we'll throw a bit of a groove situation in there and see how it feels. Kind of, I don't know. Why are my in-ears all... Oh, that's why. Because the cable fell off the chair. My ears have been yanked out of my head by the in-ears. That is not preferable. Let's try again. Let's also dial in maybe a slightly different sound. I don't know. So no tone. Big woof. Lower output, I guess. And... I do want a bit of tone. So I guess the challenge more than anything is to sort of, I think, what is the challenge? Is to feel comfortable and to sound like myself as quickly as possible on an instrument that's completely foreign to me. Let's try with a groove again, just to sit in the pocket for a minute. Still adjusting the footstool as well. Let's try some different pickup.
Yeah, okay. It's obviously not the bass for that kind of stuff. But interesting, I think I favor the very front position. Yeah, no great revelation for me here. Nice little bass, and also I keep saying nice little bass, but it is a 34-inch scale, so it's not little. It plays smaller than it is. I think has a very different neck profile, a lot rounder, quite the D shape instead of the C shape. Which, yeah, if that's your flavor, I guess that is going to be. Yeah, why not? Why not indeed? That is probably all I'm ever going to play of it, because time is of the essence right now, preparing for the road, and talking about preparing for the road. Before we do that, I will say it has quite a nice gig bag. Whoever makes these Seric gig bags, very nice. Nice little, kind of a pain in the ass to hold up. Hang on. Nice huge pocket on the front. Not sure who makes them. It is kind of like a mono bag. I don't think it's mono though. But nice. Very nice. You feel like your instrument's super protected in there. That's always nice when an instrument comes with a solid bag. Great handle on the side. Why am I reviewing the bag more than the bass? I got to stop. I'm not reviewing anything, but I am going to talk a little bit about, and maybe this is the most important, most useful thing, if this is an issue for you that you may take away from the podcast today, is how I'm, let's say this, if for the first time in a very long time, I'm actually quite optimistic and happy with my preparation for the road in terms of the basics of my playing. It's always been something, at least in the last few years, being a dad, having a very young baby around and dealing with all the things that go with family life. And, I'm not quite at the soccer practice and all the rest of it, baseball games, and that we're at ballet class and swim class and stuff like that, small moves, but still there's a lot that goes into it, more so the sleepless nights for a long time and all the rest of it. I know I'm preaching to the choir when it comes to people being parents out there and dealing with that, as well as being professional musicians. This is the first time I've managed to dedicate enough time to the fundamentals at home to where I feel in better shape than pretty much I can remember in the last 4 or 5 years before going on the road. And I will share with you now how I've been doing that and what I've been using. And it is not groundbreaking at all. It is actually really simple. It's kind of crazy to me how simple it has been, at least in the sort of getting your feet wet, dipping your toe in the water level. There are many layers to it. I won't be able to get into all of them today. There are many layers to what I've been doing with my playing and what that involves. But one of the fundamental elements has been scales again. And not patterns of scales, not little melodies or something, but just simply running the information up and down the instrument, focusing on time and sound. What all my merch says, right? Time and sound, just focusing on those two things. And I've never had this happen in my entire life. I've never had my calluses grow this much at home just from practicing. And remember, this is not anywhere close to stage volume. This is not anywhere close to stage intensity and band dynamic. That is going to be an extra layer that has to happen on the gig. That's something it's just not possible to replicate at home. So I know there's another layer. There were going to be another few days of getting into the first leg of the tour before I'm really at that point of high level operation in an ensemble environment. But right now I do feel far more optimistic about that going quicker on the road than I ever have before. So I made a video a few weeks ago now. It was something about like, this exercise will break your brain. I think that was what it was. And it was based around the Barry Harris diminished sixth scale. This scale, and let's just do it in D, why not? And about putting that in tenths. So it obviously varies. There's one extra note in there from a major scale, so I'm sure some of you are quite used to playing major scales in tenths. But there's one extra note between the fifth and the sixth note of the major scale. Let's do that again. Why did I screw it up twice? There we go. Puts this whole extra flavor in there. Gives you, since when have you had B flat minor? Well, it's actually going to be more like B flat diminished or major minor. When have you had B flat minor in a major scale? Of course not if you just play a traditional D major scale. But when you have Barry Harris 6, diminished 6, when you have that going on, wow, there's a long tail on that, huh? On that reverb, got a little bit of reverb on. Give it a little space. When you have that going on, it brings up all of these other things, and when you add chords to that, you get these inner moving parts. You can if you play them right. So I made a video all about that. I'll link it below in the description of this video. You can go check that out. I explain what that exercise is in great detail and how to get from just playing that one major sixth diminished scale to being able to have inner moving parts and move chords all over the instrument and do it in 12 keys. I get into all of that in that video, but after I made that, I was like, oh, I really like that sound. I've always liked that sound. So much so that I included it in the new book. Here's the tie-in to all of this. If you want to check this out in any great depth, it's all in here. The Barry Harris diminished sixth scale is all in the Bassist Book of Scales and Arpeggios, my latest book. It's in there in all 12 keys. It's in 2 octaves, and that's what I started doing with the 5-string. Obviously, I play the 5-string with a high C. I don't have to shift positions, but if I were to play that in standard 4-string tuning only and leave off my high C string, you can totally do it. And you can do it in a number of different ways. So I don't want to hear, oh, but you play a 5-string with a high C. No, all of this stuff, the entire book, 371 pages of this book, all playable on a 4-string, period. I will die on that hill. It's all possible, as I'm showing you here. Is it mildly easier on a 5-string with a high C? Absolutely. Less position shifts. In fact, none. whoop-de-doo. Not really that much of a big deal. And long story, already way too long now. What I've been doing to warm up and sometimes creeping into 30 or 45 minutes of the first part of my practice routine every day is simply playing that scale. Don't ask me why. Like, I don't know why. It feels good. I love the sound of it. It's a nice stretch for the fretting hand. For me, it covers the entire instrument the way I'm playing it across strings. There's a little bit of articulation in there. I'm not picking every single note. There are a couple of slides right there and right there. And I can put in slides and hammers and pulls anywhere I want just to change the articulation, change the feel, the time, the bounce. And that's been it. Like I said, it's not groundbreaking in terms of what it is fundamentally. It's literally just running a 2-octave scale. But when you get into the details of it, it's a 2-octave, what's called an octatonic scale, an 8-note scale as opposed to a 7-note scale. It has this nice flavor of Barry Harris's diminished sixth thing. It leads to so many other musical ideas beyond just the major scale, chordally, as we just heard with that other exercise. And it's been just something that I can run through, especially with the metronome. I've been doing a lot of that. Let's see, where was I at today? Because I've already been working on it this morning. I think I like the symmetry of it as well. The fact that it's an 8-note scale, it goes up, it goes down, it stays on the bar. If I'm just swinging away here in 4/4, 130 BPM there, a little bit too high to jump it in right away at. I think this morning I started at 70 for absolutely no reason in particular. Etc., etc. And I've really been knocking in like 30, 45 minutes, sometimes even an hour just of that with the metronome up and down. That was, I think today I went from 70 up to, like, I've just turned the metronome on, so I know I stopped at 130. I went from 70 to 130, and I spent a lot of time at each metronome marking. I think I went up in increments of 5, so 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, etc., up to 130. I was doing that multiple times at each tempo in all keys, in all areas of the instrument, from as low as the stretch would allow me. That's G. That's way down on F sharp. Let's see if I can do F. Yeah, just about. So really the entire range of the instrument, getting up to maybe it is something, I don't know why I find it so, and you may not, but there has been something quite satisfying about that, about building up the tempo slowly, building up the feeling of warmth in the fingers, building up the traction. I don't know why I'm using that word, but it feels applicable here. The traction of coordination between the fretting and the picking hand, and understanding that there are so many more delicate articulations you can make at the slower speed, at this 70 BPM. way more. I even played a couple of wrong notes there. But I did way more kind of hammering and pulling and all kinds of stuff at the slower tempo, and it has made me focus on those details way more. So I feel like I'm getting an unbelievable amount of results and of information and data to analyze about my playing out of something conceptually very, very simple. It's a scale. You don't have to do it with the diminished sixth scale either. Why not do it with a... why not do it with a half whole? It really doesn't matter what you do it with. It matters that you do it. And I think the consistency, as I keep talking about and have done for years, will continue to do until the end. The consistency has been the main thing. Very interesting reading a BBC interview with Herbie Hancock recently. He's 84 years old, and the interviewer asked him, have you practiced today? And he's like, no, and I don't think I will either. I was like, oh, so there does become a time when true legends and masters of the art form are just like, yeah, I'm not feeling it today. And he's like, hey, I'll probably watch YouTube or something. I was like, wow, he's human. So that I haven't lost sight of that element of it. Like it's easy, at least I find it easy to just go bonkers and total tunnel vision and keep going for hours and hours and hours. I do have to tell myself, okay, like my routine, for instance, has been of late, okay, it's 2:30 p.m. No matter what I'm doing, got to go to the gym. That's it. Got to get up there and work out, go upstairs, get in my gym, get on the bike, whatever it is, spend an hour being very physical and taking care of my body. So I've been better disciplined about that. And it's kind of come out of necessity, the playing, because I know I have to go on the road in a couple of weeks. And the physical element is also a little bit about that, because you just don't want to be out of shape on the road, and you want to take care of your body. You don't want it failing on you when the pressure is the most, when it's under the most strain of travel and lack of sleep and having to operate at a high musical level. You want your body to be in as great a shape as possible, especially as it's not always possible to exercise on the road. You simply don't have the time. With tough travel days, I know we have 14 flights in 1 week on this tour coming up on the West Coast here. So I know that's going to be very hectic. So I try and front load the physical side of things as much as I can before we leave, so I'm not too destroyed by the end of it. And I will be pretty beaten up by the end of it, and we'll have to get into recovery mode and get back into the routine as soon as possible. But the physical thing has also been triggered by my daughter is like active and I don't want to be, super out of shape dad who can't dance or run around or play football, whatever it is with her. When she says jump, I like to jump. And when she asks to do something, I love to say, yes, let's go do that. Let's go to the park. Let's go up the mountain to the snow. Let's go walk the dog, whatever it is, let's go to the beach and jump around and dig holes and build sandcastles. I want to be able to do all of that stuff. None of us are getting any younger, so that becomes way more important. So that has been a great balance of late, last few weeks, probably a month or so, getting back into that. I've always been kind of good about it, but I have noticed it's easy to fall off when you get distracted, and things have been incredibly busy of late with work, and obviously with the new book coming out, and just the business in general takes up a lot of time. If you made it this far, what emoji are we going to go with today? Because as always, I'm always psyched to hear from everyone, and let's go with a flag. If you can leave the Danish flag emoji, there you go. It's the red flag with the white cross on it, with the center line moved over to the left. You find it. Type in Denmark into your emojis thing, and it will come up. If you leave the Danish flag emoji in the description, in your comment below, if you have a question, I will be sure to read it and to answer your question within the first 48 hours of this video going out. I really appreciate you spending some of your insanely precious time with me, and I'll see you.